So my grandmother just recently had her 90th birthday, and I thought the perfect gift to get her would be building her a fence in her backyard. She's needed this fence for years. As you can see, there's nothing existing right now, and it's kind of a mess. So my goal was to clean it up and build her a nice new fence for her birthday. Now, if you want to support my channel, please be sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this. So the first thing I needed to do was go and pick up materials to build the actual fence with. So I needed bags of concrete and pieces of wood to actually assemble the fence with. Now, as you can see here, the U-Haul staff member accidentally bumps the tongue of the trailer into my car, left a little scratch on the bumper, thankfully didn't cause any cracks or major damage, and I didn't complain about it, I just let it go. I didn't want to get him into trouble. I probably could have got the rental covered, probably could have got the damage covered, but I just let it go because I didn't want him to get into trouble. I've probably rented U-Hauls 50 to 100 times in the last couple of years, and this is actually the first time that a staff member has ever made a mistake like this. I've usually found that they're very good at what they do, they're very helpful. Usually the process of hooking up the trailer is really smooth and convenient, so I won't hold it against U-Haul. This is the first time in like 50 times that this has happened, so I still definitely recommend them. I don't own a pickup truck, and I don't own a big vehicle that's made for carrying all of these kinds of construction materials. That's why I really like renting U-Haul trailers. They are very affordable. The trailer that you see in the video here only costs about $15 plus tax for a whole day of use. They're really heavy duty. They're made out of thick galvanized steel, and they have really high load ratings. This trailer is actually a motorcycle trailer, so it's made for moving motorcycles from place to place, but it still has a load rating of 1,600 pounds on U-Haul's website. So that's more than enough for the stuff that I was hoping to carry today. So renting U-Haul trailers is way cheaper than buying your own trailer. I think a comparable trailer this heavy duty would cost you thousands of dollars. Plus you'd have to store it in between the times that you're using it. And the U-Haul trailers have different designs that you can kind of choose based on your project. So for a project like this, I wanted an open top trailer with a ramp. Open top so that I could fit everything really easily and easily load and unload the wood and the concrete without having to bend over under the roof. And a ramp so that I could walk up and down, and I could bring the wheelbarrow right into the trailer to wheel the concrete bags in and out of. So the ramp is really heavy duty because it's made to roll motorcycles up and down, and the trailer was really convenient to use because it's just the perfect size to fit these 8-foot 4x4s. And I found as well, I'm not using plywood in this project, but in times when I've had to move plywood, the 4-foot sheets of plywood fit perfectly inside the walls of this trailer. They don't shift side to side, so you don't even have to really secure them with ratchet straps or ropes or anything. So I think this motorcycle trailer is a bit of a hack for saving money if you're going to rent U-Haul. However, you have to make sure that U-Haul will actually rent to you and that they'll rent to the car that you have. I used to own a Ford Explorer, and for some reason Ford Explorers were blacklisted for almost 20 model years from U-Haul. So you have to make sure before you go and try to rent the trailer that they will actually rent to your vehicle. I'm at the building supplier starting to get some of the parts that I need to build the fence. This building supplier has a unique setup where for some materials, like the concrete, they have the guys on the forklifts bring it right to your car. And for other stuff, like the lumber, you drive into a covered yard under the tent there, where you can pick up the materials inside where it's climate controlled. So the first thing that I got from the supplier were the concrete bags for the posts. So since the fence is going to be 30 feet wide, and I wanted to have 6 feet in between each post, that meant having 6 posts. I want to mix 3 bags of concrete per post, which brings us to a total of 18 bags of concrete. So with the help of the staff member at Senso, shout out to Senso Building Materials in Toronto, I loaded up all the concrete bags into the trailer. And I made sure to load the concrete bags just forward of the trailer axle. Whenever trailering, you want to distribute the load 60% in front of the axle and 40% behind the axle. This is to prevent trailer sway at high speeds. Once I had loaded up all the concrete bags, I unloaded all of the wood from the forklift. I bought 2x6 by 8-foot pressure-treated boards for the crossbars, as well as some 2x4s to put on top. And I also picked up a couple of extra 4x4 posts. Unfortunately, this supplier didn't have any of the 1x5 material that I would actually need to use for the vertical sections of the fence. So that meant I was going to have to find somewhere else to buy it. But in the meantime, since the trailer was already loaded, it was time to bring it to my grandmother's house to get started. So once I'd brought the material over to my grandmother's house, the first thing I had to do was to determine where the fence actually had to go. I ran a string line between a couple of existing fence posts to try to determine where the property line was. When I measured between the string line and the house behind me there, our neighbor's house that had just been built a few years ago, I found that the average distance between the line and the house was 35 inches. So I decided I would use 35 inches as the distance from each fence post to the house. That way the fence would be nice and square to the property line. Now the absolute best way to determine where a fence should go is by referencing an up-to-date land survey. Now a land survey should have been available for me because the house behind me had only been built a few years ago, and for any new construction in our city, a survey has to be posted publicly to prove that the house is being built in the correct location. However, due to some technical malfunction, the survey was not available, so I was forced to just check the average distance to the property line by using the string. Once I determined that 35 inches was the measurement that I'd be working with, I used marking spray paint to mark out 35 inches from the basement wall. So the first dot that you see on the ground there is the mark that is 6 foot 4 inches from the previous hole. And the reason for 6 foot 4 is because I wanted 6 feet of separation in between each fence post, plus 3.5 inches for the width of the actual post. Once I had determined the 6 foot 4 mark, I then measured 35 inches from the wall and made the bigger circle to indicate where I should dig. And I repeated this process all the way down the line to mark out exactly where the fence posts would be dug out. Once I finished marking out where all of the post holes would be dug, I confirmed with the neighbor that he was satisfied with where I would be placing the fence. He confirmed that he was okay with it. So now that all of the post holes are marked out, it's time to start digging. And the tool that I'm using is known as a post hole digger or as a clamshell digger. And the way it works is by having two spade shovels facing each other connected with a lever on a pivot point. So when you drive the straight side of the shovel down into the ground, you then push down on the lever, and it causes the opposing shovel to close, almost in the shape of a clamp. And when it closes, it scoops the dirt in between the two buckets, allowing you to lift the dirt vertically out of the hole and dig straight down. With this particular post hole digger, the maximum depth below grade that you can go is 40 inches. I'm going to aim to dig down the full 40 inches because I want to get below the frost line. Anytime you install fence posts in the ground, you need to get below the depth where the winter weather causes the ground to freeze. The reason for that is because in the winter, when the ground freezes, it causes the soil to expand. And the expansion of the soil due to the ice can cause what's called frost heave. If your fence posts aren't below frost, then over the years they will get heaved out of the ground. And it'll cause the fence to get twisted and warped and eventually to fall over. So we're going to aim to go the full 40 inches before we start installing the posts and putting in concrete. So this concludes the first video in the How to Build a Fence series. In the next video, I'll show you how to actually place the posts and how to set them so that they're plumb and so that they're evenly spaced apart. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you won't miss part 2.